this evening's board meeting to order. We have an auspicious date of 11/12/13 that we purposely set the board date for. Could I have a roll call, please?
Bowerman.
Yes, ma'am.
McKeon.
Here.
Schneider.
Here.
Schutrop. Here. Swanson.
Good evening.
Tucker.
Here.
Here. Tonight we'd like to recognize some National Merit semifinalists. We have 2 out of the 3 here this evening, Catherine Hill and Anthony Holm. I see they brought most of their families and friends with them, and I wanted just to congratulate you and wish you well because you become finalists. But I also want to tell you a story of how every year I get an email from a constituent asking me, why don't we have any National Merit semifinalists in this district? Well, I should have told them we're waiting for the best kids ever to come to our district. So thank you, and I believe Sean may have something to say.
Sure. I'll introduce myself. My name is Sean Hildebrandt, and I'm the Secondary High Potential Specialist. It's been really one of my highlights so far of my time on the job. I came on board in January, but to get to work with these 3 individuals, 2 of which are here today. And we can really be proud of the work that they've put in throughout their school years. And I got to invest a little of my time and plug in their grades and just see how wonderful they have been and how they've challenged themselves with really our toughest classes. So they've been really a pleasure to work with. And they're also so very busy that I really had to twist their arms to get here this evening, just to get recognized. And I just said to them both, and the third, Luke, couldn't be here tonight as he had some previous commitments, but I just said, come on, do it for your family.
Yeah.
You know, just come for your mom and dad. So be part of that. They'll be very, very proud. So I'm proud of them, and I'm happy that they were able to come tonight and just join us. And I know that they didn't prepare their 5-minute speeches like I asked them to. They think they lost that email, so no, I'm kidding. But anyway, I wanted to thank you and thank you guys. Keep up the good work, and I'm sure that you'll do plenty of things to keep us proud in the future as well.
Instead of maybe a 5-minute speech, would you be so kind as maybe to stand up and introduce who you have with you this evening?
All right, I'll go first. I'm Tony Holm, and this is my sister Justine, my mom Beth, and my dad Larry.
Congratulations.
And also,
I'm Katie Hill, and this is my mom Maureen, my brother Jake, and my dad Paul.
And I think we all know how important it is to have the support of our families in order to be recognized with this type of honor. And I know Chair Romansky has a certificate that she would like to give to you.
Also, could you share what your educational plans or for the future are?
I'm planning on attending the U of M and majoring in physics and German.
Physics and German.
I'm also going to the U of M, and I'm majoring in biology and cellular biology. So.
Very good.
Nice.
Very good.
You, good place.
Yes, I'm glad you're staying in state. Congratulations in the back.
As much as I'm sure you'd like to stick around and watch our lengthy board meetings, it would not be rude to leave after this recognition, and we would like to thank you for taking the extra time for being here. It's important that our students see role models like the 2 of you, and we really appreciate the effort you had to make to get here tonight. So thank you very much, and by all means, you do not have to stick around here.
Okay, they could stay and learn all about school finance and maybe become a school. Thank you.
Thank you. Congratulations.
Now we'll move on to the consideration of the agenda as presented with any additions. I believe we have addition on our table of 1.4 for consent.
Yes, we do. We've got in front of you, and I'm going to ask Scott Hare, our Director of Special Education, to come up. As you all know, that when it comes to the need for staffing for special ed, it's really driven by the needs of our students and the move-ins. And as we have in the past, anytime we ask for any additional FTEs beyond what we've budgeted, we always go to the board with it. I didn't think it'd be a controversial topic, but I did feel like the backstory is necessary. And then I would ask that we place it as item 1.4 consent, 1.1, 4.4.1.5, the approval of 1.0 FTE. That's a lot of points in there. Scott, you want to talk to us what the need is, how the needs come about?
Since the beginning of the school year, when we staffed our projections last year, going into the end of June, we continue to look at all of our caseloads across the district, our most updated child count. Well, since the beginning of the year, we've had multiple students move into the district that receive special services. And one of our buildings, SunPath, who hosts one of our center-based programs, has received a lot of move-ins in the last 2 months, putting us, stressing out the caseloads in that building. And so we definitely need a special ed teacher to help support Heidi Nissler's DCD program in that building.
And the approximate cost for the rest of the school year?
Yeah, we looked at a 75% being that 1/4 of the school year is done. So the approximate cost is $36,000 a year. However, special education receives reimbursement, and so the true cost is about $17,000 for the remainder of the year, after all the reimbursements are done and calculated from the state.
And after you've looked at the caseloads and everything, you find that to be a very appropriate expenditure?
I do, and in fact, we really do, it's necessary for, there are areas that fall within state statutes for case laws for certain student populations. This is one of those areas that we need to meet the state statute to help that group of students.
So again, I know by rule, consent is no discussion, so we're kind of doing a hybrid here. Are there any questions before we would place that in the consent?
If not, I'll entertain a motion to, what am I saying? To amend the agenda with the addition.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The item will carry. Just a second here. Okay, do we have Mr. Brecky here?
We'll do a
Luke?
repeat performance. So, I know we want to get some pictures there. But Luke Brecky is our third National Merit semifinalist. So again, Luke, I had the privilege of working through the finalist application with him. That's most young man. And he worked pretty hard to get here tonight, from what I gather. So we're happy to have him. But this is on behalf of the school board. And I want to present that to you. Did we want to get some more picture ops? And so I pre-warned them that there would be pictures. Yeah, now you have your 5-minute speeches.
I know that with the other two students, we asked them what their future plans are. Do you have anything you could share with us?
Right now, I'm considering going into actuarial science at the University of Minnesota, but I'm not set on anything yet.
Very good. Well, congratulations and thanks for representing our school district so well. Thank you. Thank you.
If you'd like to stay, Luke, we're having a thing on the audit.
I think you picked up pace there.
Yeah, that's right.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks, Sean.
I think it's wonderful. All three of our planning on going to the University of Minnesota. We're keeping them home in the state. It's really nice to hear. Okay, we've got as far as the consent agenda. Is there a motion to approve consent?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The motion will carry. We'll go take this in order.
Yes, I think so.
Okay, we'll go to all business discussion items on 5.1, which is the overview of the referendum central. And Crystal will be presenting tonight.
Hello.
As Crystal's getting the referendum central teed up, we're meeting with the principals tomorrow and the entire district staff on Thursday to set up a calendar or a schedule of events that include kind of your typical, small table with a monitor for some of our videos and some of our on-screen items. And what we're looking at is we're asking from an educational standpoint, everybody to sign up for 3-4 events over the course of the winter up until March 11th, including the conferencing, the sports, the music, and those kinds of things. And so we'll be very present that way. And then, of course, we're still getting the requests for smaller group meetings and larger group meetings that are coming up. And so I would imagine that outside of the, 75, 80 events that we'll be at, we'll probably see another, 25 or so. We'll probably send it around and see if there are any events that you all would like to be a part of that, again, just from the educational standpoint, to be present, answer questions, that kind of thing. I forgot to mention too, we're doing the soup with the soup, the homemade soups, and doing some conversation at buildings, and referendum and rolls, I think, is the other one. So we're gonna go out and hit each building. We're gonna do some more focusing even on the high school site, so people actually get in and see what a practical site our high school is. And so lots of opportunities for people to educate, lots of opportunities for people to learn more about Referendum Central. And maybe with that, Crystal, I'd turn it
Sure.
back to you.
We launched it last Monday. You can find it at the icon at the top of the homepage, which is also, if you go to any of the school sites, it's still there. It's also on the left in the quick link section, and then on our main district homepage, you can find it by clicking here. A welcome page with some information from Rod about what we're doing. The next tab is the ballot question, so this is exactly what they will see on the ballot. Rod and I put together some presentations. You guys have seen his PowerPoint presentations. There's a longer one that's 26 minutes and a shorter one that's 7 minutes. So kind of more condensed version if you only have a couple minutes to watch. If you want all the details, I mean, there's a lot in there, that 26-minute one. So that's the long version. And those I've actually been kind of tracking them, and those are actually getting watched pretty well. So commonly asked questions. These are all links to the answers to the commonly asked questions. And then there's a full PDF if someone just wants to print it out and read it at home or read it when they're on the couch or whatever. And then the full list is under here as well. Submit a question or a rumor is something that's actually we've gotten a lot of responses at. It's a Google Doc that I'm keeping, and people can put in their questions, their name, and if they want me to respond, their email address. And it's something that I'll share with you guys as well. It's a working Google Doc, so you guys could always click on it. I'm keeping track of when I answered it, where I answered it, and it's been good. We've gotten a lot of questions so far. Sarah and I's information if people want to call. The tax calculator is something Hoheisel put together and his crew, Northland Securities. And what you would do is click on the tax calculator, and since barely anyone knows there's parcel ID, you'd go like this. Right? Did I do it right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll put in my house number. How about that?
I don't think it needs street.
Oh yeah, it's just no, yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
just
I'm messing it up
Just after.
with no space.
Yeah,
I did
no
this
space.
last time. So don't put street. So here's my parcel ID. I copy and paste it, in here, get info, and it'll tell me exactly what I'll be paying monthly. If you don't want to have to go through all that, we have all the ballpark range area right here. And that's for commercial and residential, agriculture, that sort of thing. Referendum literature. Hopefully this list will be a lot longer once we keep continuing to have literature. Right now we have a 4-page brochure, which I think a lot of you guys have seen. But we will keep adding to that. We are working on a 1-page, a front and back right now.
We'll run that through tomorrow night. We have, I'm using a focus group approach to kind of vet out what works, what doesn't, to educate. And we have that tomorrow night, and so we'll go through the long presentation. We'll also go through the 4-pager, and then we're working on a 1-pager to see what do people think. Some of the people in the focus group have seen it before, so they're getting a second scoop. People who made suggestions for improvements on the first time we did a focus group, and we took their advice and we made some changes. And so tomorrow night I hope that they think it's even better than last time.
Any questions you guys have? Suggestions for improvements I'll always take as well. So
I have a question. As you're getting those questions and rumors, are you adding questions to the frequently added from any of the...
I'm actually putting them right here, responses to questions. So those are like questions that we haven't gotten on the commonly asked. So I'm updating that daily. So it's kind of like a working document. And then rumors, we kind of decide between which is rumor totally off and what is a question. But I've been updating those as we've been getting them so that people can see what we've already posted as well.
Thank you.
Anyone else?
Great job, thank you.
Yeah, it looks fantastic.
Nice job.
We'll move to item 6 under old business action items is 6.1, which is the election certification. Do you want to comment on that, Matt?
I'm going to tee it up and turn it over to my local expert.
Yeah.
You have 2 resolutions that I'd like to ask you to approve this evening. The first is the resolution canvassing the results, basically accepting the statistics and vote counts that we've received from Shakopee. And the second one is a resolution authorizing the issuance of certificates of election that we would then do in January. The first one, the resolution canvassing results, we received an abstract of votes cast from Scott County, and that's in the clerk's pack, in the signature pack. As part of the abstract, there is the last page is asking for all school board members to sign off on it. So if you could note that sometime before we leave tonight. And the part of the resolution indicates that the total number of votes cast were 5,058. And I don't know if you want me to go through it, but all 5 candidates vote counts are listed. And then as part of the resolution canvassing, it indicates candidate Berg, Swanson, Romansky, and Hallett having received the highest number of votes are elected to 4-year terms beginning the first Monday in January 2014. So I'd like to ask for a motion and a second on that one.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Hearing, you don't need a roll call, do you?
No, none of this.
Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Motion passes. And we'll do the resolution.
Right. The second resolution as part of the canvassing is a resolution authorizing issuance of certificates of election and directing school district clerk to perform other election-related duties. And basically the gist of this is that it directs administration to issue the certificates of election that we would then do in January, the first meeting in January. So I'd like to ask for a motion and a second on that.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you.
I think it was
Any other
controversial.
discussion on that? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed, motion will carry. And now I need to get everything straightened out here. Then we'll go to our next item on the agenda, which is the audit. Am I correct? buried under this one paper here. Under 6.2, the fiscal 2013 audit.
Thank you. We have Mayor from KDB, Kern to Winter Beery, who worked on our audit, and he's here with PowerPoint and just general discussion, and then we would take questions.
Thanks, Mike. Madam Chair, members of the board, thank you for the invitation to present tonight. As Mike indicated, we did perform the fiscal year audit for the June 30th, 2013 fiscal year, and I'm happy to present the results tonight through the PowerPoint. The results of the audit ultimately end up in a pretty big document dump each year, and you receive that electronically through your packets. The physical evidence is here on the table, but I think it's easier to use the PowerPoint presentation to go through that. So as we get set up here, we'll be able just, for the benefit of the audience here in the chamber and at home, kind of follow through with the results here. So, there we go. It's the district's responsibility to prepare financial statements for the public each year. And this is a good time, I think, to thank Mike and Rochelle Greenwood and the Finance Department for all the work that they did in preparing for the audit and also preparing financial statements for the public at large. It's our job as auditors to come in to test, examine, and give an opinion on those financial statements so that users of them, the state of Minnesota, the public, can be assured of their accuracy. We do that through our independent auditor's report, along with various other reports which are in the documents, and I just want to take a moment to go over the results of each of those reports and basically the results of the audit then. We provided an unmodified or a clean opinion on the financial statements. That's the best opinion we can give you, so that means that the numbers we're going to be looking at tonight are materially accurate. They're a true picture of the district's financial position at the end of the June 30, 2013 fiscal year, and a true record of the transactions for that same year ended. Because the district receives more than $500,000 in federal money, the feds want to make sure that those dollars are being spent appropriately. So we do a test on compliance each year with various programs. This year, take a quick look, I think we did food service and special education. And happy to report no findings on either of those for the year. So the federal government will be happy that they use the dollars from them appropriately for the year. The Minnesota Office of State Auditor requires that we test the district on various state statutes that apply to you. This is everything from contracting and bidding to conflicts of interest, to how you're depositing and investing your dollars here at the district. And again, happy to report no findings there as well. So of the three reports that I'm offering, all three of them are unmodified, or the cleanest I can provide. So a very clean audit for the 2013 fiscal year. As part of our audit, we also take a look at internal control, and if we have any recommendations for improvement, we'll provide those to you. And just had two findings this year. These are ones that you're used to seeing in the past: lack of segregation of accounting duties and preparation of financial statements. I'm not going to go into any great detail on those tonight. The details of those are in the management letter, and if you do have some questions about those, I'd be happy to respond to them directly. With that, I just want to take the rest of my time to give you a little bit of an overview of the results of the finances for the 2013 fiscal year. It's probably best done in the context of the budget that you as a board approved. Your general fund budget for 2013 called for $68.2 million in revenue, about $68.1 in spending, and as a result then a small surplus of basically a break-even budget. Fund balance would have gone up a little bit for the year. Actual results, actual revenue came in at $68.6 million. That was about $400,000 better than anticipated. Some additional special education money coming from the state through the ADSIS grant, and the way that you collected on your federal dollars during the year resulted in a little bit more revenue, but there's also spending on the other side of that as well. General fund expenditures for the year were about $69.5 million, about $1.4 million over budget, but again, more spending in special education related to the grant. Also instructional support related to some of the new buildings that were opened up during the year, and pupil support transportation costs were a little bit higher than anticipated with the growth in enrollment during the year. So ultimately, fund balance did decline about $871,000 to an ending fund balance of about $12.5. And keep that number in mind. I'm going to provide you some context on that in just a little bit, both historically and from a ratio perspective. Most of your funding at the district, whether it be general education aid or your operating referendum, comes from your student count. And to understand where you are from a student count perspective is important ultimately in understanding your finances here at the district. And this chart shows you the trends in resident average daily membership for your district. These are public school students living within the district boundaries, whether they attend here or not. That number for 2013 was 8,168. That's up about 240 students from the prior year. And if you go back 5 years, you almost have 1,400 more students here in 2013 than you did back in 2009. Now, we have to take into account the effects of open enrollment. Your residents can leave the district to attend other districts, but you also have the opportunity to attract districts here, or non-residents here to your district. And that ultimately is the number after weighting that you're paid on from the state when it comes to general education. That number for the year is shown here, about 8,500 or so for the year. It's about a 2% increase from the prior year and about a 17% increase over the 5 years that are shown. So tremendous growth here at the district over the 5-year period. 9, 10, and 11, well over 5% when it comes to residents. And you can see it's starting to taper off, plateau a little bit, but very strong growth each of the 5 years shown. Revenue for the year from 2012 to 2013 was up about 2.5%. You're going to notice that local property taxes appears to be up rather significantly. Actually, the impact on the local taxpayer was relatively flat. Your levy was relatively the same. That has to do with the tax shift and basically the state tinkering with how you recognize the dollars associated with that. So really no impact to the local taxpayer. The other revenue, that was federal dollars that went down. You'll recall back in 2012 you received a one-time Ed Jobs money from the feds related to the stimulus package. Those dollars are now gone. You're on your own to fund those yourself. And also during the year, a little bit of an uptick in the general education funding, along with a new literacy aid grant, along with the ADSIS grant that we saw. You're seeing about a $2 million bump from the state on the state's sources, along with the growth, obviously, in your enrollment. This one's a little tough to see. We're often asked as auditors, because we see a lot of different districts, how does my district compare to others? And I really hesitate to respond directly to that, but I think it's good to have context anyway, because it's really sometimes an apples to oranges comparison. As far as how much you're spending versus another district, how much revenue you're bringing in versus another district, but the numbers are here for you, and you can look at the 2012 fiscal year. Your district brought in about $8,800 in revenue per student. The 7-county metro area was about $3,000 more than that. And for the statewide average, about $2,000 more than that. So from a revenue perspective, it's certainly not even within the range of the average district, whether it be metro or otherwise. There's a lot of different factors that go into that, 1 or 2 that you can control locally, others that you cannot. One of the big factors is the operating referendum. That's a choice that you as a board, along with the voters of the district, make, decide how the funding is going to go. Your district right now, overall in the general fund, is bringing in about $960 per student from a property tax standpoint. Your neighbors in the metro area here are bringing in about $2,600 per student, and the statewide average is about $1,500 per student. You're also going to see a disparity on state aid. That's about $800 difference between the metro area and almost $900 different between the statewide average. Special education from a demographic standpoint is going to drive that, as well as compensatory money, and that is a proportion of general education aid that's based on free and reduced. That could have upwards of a $2,000 swing from district to district, and that's based on your free and reduced count, the poverty level at your district. So you can see ultimately where you compare. Again, I'm going to let you look at that and use that how you see fit, but those numbers are available at the state, and they compare all 360 some districts with each other on a per pupil funding, and on this page, expenditure standpoint. A quick look at expenditures for the 2013 fiscal year. If we look at all the instructional categories there, they made up 77% of your budget. That means that more than 3/4 of the dollars are hitting the classroom. If you go back a year, that same number, about 77% again. For administration, only 5% in 2012 and 6% in 2013. And to wrap things up, I just want to take a look at general fund operations with you one more time. Those are the numbers that we looked at earlier on the 2013 column. You ended with a $12.5 million, we'll call it fund balance. That $12.5 million fund balance is broken up down below. There's a portion of it that we call non-spendable. Those are dollars where the check has already been cut, the benefit is going to happen in the next fiscal year. And there's also restricted fund balance. Those are dollars that come from the state with strings attached. You need to spend them on a particular purpose. If you don't spend them, you need to be carried over to the next year. So it's really not a discretionary fund balance that you as a board have a lot of control over. That leaves the unassigned number, and that's the number that really is the scorecard of the benchmark for you as a district as to how your financial health is. And that number for the 2013 fiscal year was about $11.5 million, a little bit down from 2012. but you can see for the 5-year period, still a very strong financial position at the end of the year. It's about 16% of your general fund expenditures, and that's in relation to your internal fund balance of 12%, so you're in a very strong position there. Go ahead. Yeah.
One other point that we need to remember that we did in 2013, and it's not that far gone past, but we opened up Pearson, we opened up the LC, we remodeled the 2 junior highs and had to add staff, and so we had a lot of changes last year, and so trying to figure out the LC, we were the fiscal host, now that we're not, and so there were a number of changes that played into all those different numbers, and I just want to remind everybody that those were out there.
Just to provide some context on the percentage fund balance, the state looks at it a little bit differently. They don't include all the expenditures that you would in your particular analysis, and their number for your district is 20.2, and that gives you some perspective in relation to all districts statewide. We're seeing them basically in the low 20% range, so you're certainly in a reasonable level in relation to your peers when it comes to fund balance. Fund balance is there for 2 reasons. It acts as a contingency for unexpected events. As Mike indicated, 2013 was a year of investment. We're opening a couple new buildings, unexpected costs associated with that. That's what fund balance is there for. Because you had a comfortable fund balance, you're able to absorb those costs during the year and then think long term as to how you're going to approach the operations associated with that. If you didn't have a fund balance to do that, you'd be looking at what to cut or what revenue to bring in as a result. It's also there for cash flow, and this chart demonstrates that. The orange part is your fund balance. That's the financial health of the district. That's the decisions that you as a board are making regarding spending and financial health. The cash balance, though, is the amount that the state is ultimately going to pay you and how much you have in the bank to pay the bills. And that number you haven't had a lot of control over the last few years. They've been, again, tinkering, like I said earlier, with how they're paying you. Good news, though, this past month, the state is now paying you fully at the 90-10 ratio on the state aid. That was down to almost 66% just a year ago, back in 2012, so that's good news. And as I mentioned earlier, they're also borrowing from you on your property taxes. It's called the tax shift, and about half of that is going to be paid back this year as well. So from a cash flow perspective, the district's going to be doing much better. That doesn't necessarily impact financial health. Again, that's the orange line, but it certainly gives you a little bit more breathing room when you're trying to pay the bills and make the payroll on a daily basis. Quick look at the food service fund, a small deficit this year, a lot of operational changes in food service this year with some new federal mandates. The district is still kind of sorting through that, but again, with the fund balance in that fund, you were able to absorb a small deficit this year of about $52,000. And the community service fund continues to be healthy, about a $67,000 fund balance there. That particular fund is a conglomeration of a lot of different activities, community education, school readiness, ECFE, and all of them ended with a positive position at the end of the year, a total fund balance of $67,000. So I'm going to leave it at that. My goal was to give you a high-level overview of the finances and the results of our audit, but I'd be happy to stay for any detailed questions you might have about the district's finance.
We do have hard copies of both the financial document itself. Included with that would be the management letter, pretty much a thicker version of what Matt just talked about. All these were electronically sent to you as well. And then we have the student activity audit along with the management letter for that group of accounts. So.
Any questions? Reggie's thinking.
Yeah. I don't know which slide it was, Matt. I know what it was in our packet, but it's the resident ADM and weighted ADM membership served.
Sure.
You just went past it.
There's the resident. Yep.
No, next one.
You want to go weighted?
Yep.
Okay.
No, keep going. One more.
Changes.
That one.
All right. Good.
Yeah, the change. So it looks to me like the rate of change is slowing, but I'm assuming that's somewhat an artifact, kind of a mathematical artifact, the fact that you get a bigger base that we're going off of. So I shouldn't be alarmed, or we shouldn't be alarmed looking at that and saying that our it's the rate is slowing, but it's somewhat of a mathematical artifact. Is that correct?
I think, yeah, what you're saying is basically if you're bringing in 300 students a year
Yes.
on a regular basis, your denominator in that equation is growing, and as a
Right.
result, the percentage is going to go down a little bit. I do think there is probably some real growth decline as far as the actual numeric numbers going
Right.
down, but I would agree with you. As you grow, the impact that a couple more students is going to have is not going to have as great of a percentage
Okay.
impact.
Good.
It's certainly in a high growth mode regardless. A lot of districts would be very happy to be in your.
Envious of that, yeah, sure, thank you.
Didn't the legislature change how they calculate the weight this
The
year?
weighting will
too?
be changed for the 2015 school year.
Okay, so it hasn't
1 year
changed
off.
yet in this?
No, not, this year will remain the same weighting, and then next year, in the next year's budget, we'll see a change in the weighting.
Any other questions? If not, thank you very
Great.
much.
Thanks again.
Thank you, and
And thank
congrats
you.
to Mike and his team for,
Yeah, we'll need just a
Great job.
motion to accept the audit, and
I'll make the motion to accept the audit as presented.
Second.
Discussion? We were saying thank you to both the auditing team and the
yes, the auditors, they
Business
came in,
office.
I believe this is one of the quickest time turnarounds on this bad boy that we've had since I've been here, so we really appreciate them working with us, and then Rochelle Greenwood does a heck of a lot of work on this, and I really appreciate her, along with the support from the rest of our office up there with the HR people helping, and along with accounts payable and payroll, but really appreciate what my people do for me on that.
Thank them for us too.
Yep.
Thank
so
you.
Thank
we don't need to change the motion to acceptance of that bad boy, do we? Any other discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The motion passes. Thank you again. And we'll go to 6.3, which is lease levy borrowing, and Mike will be here in a second.
Thanks, Mary. Actually, I can tee this one up with Michael Hoheisel in my corner. I feel like I can handle this one. We're gonna go over actually 6.3, 6.4, 6.5, and we'll take them in that order. And 6.3 is we're looking, first of all, we're gonna be looking at, this has to do with the K centers, the additions, and what we're looking for, the first thing is a motion on a resolution stating the intention of the school board to enter into a lease purchase financing and to issue certificates of participation series 2013B. So we're looking for a motion and a second, and then I'll give you the highlights of that resolution.
So moved.
Okay, highlights of this resolution, it's authorizing our district to negotiate a lease levy transaction with Northland Securities. The issuance cannot exceed $13,250,000. The maximum true interest cost cannot exceed, and we have a 5.75% interest, but in talking with Michael before the meeting, it's realistic to look at current rates being even under 5% right now. But that gives us a safety net. And it's also authorizing the signatures, which consist of the school board chair, superintendent, or director of finance. And this resolution would expire on June 30th of 2014. Questions at all?
The only question I had when I read through this was why June 30th, 2014? We talked about closing this in December. It just seems like it's
We had
abundantly
the attorneys
cautious.
give us 6 months just in the event of some catastrophic event, like rates went away from us if we declared war in Pakistan, could be an example. Just to give you could still take bids, get it moving, and we can reimburse the district with a bond sale later. So that is the.
So this is typical then.
We hope to close this, a timeline.
Yeah.
You've gotten commissioner's approval, you've published in the paper, that publication date, you can take bids after November 26th. We hope to have this awarded by the full school board by December 9th and closed by December 30th. So we want this done
Yeah.
by the end of the year, because that sets up our next 2 resolutions.
That's why the June 30th was staring me in the face.
Absolutely.
Any other questions?
If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? The motion passes.
Okay, the next one, Mary, is we're looking at a resolution calling for the March 11th, 14 election. And that resolution is a motion, I need a motion for a resolution relating to the issuance of school building bonds and calling an election thereon. So I'm looking for a motion in a second, and then I'll go over any highlights.
So moved.
All right, the resolution highlights here is this is authorizing our district to move forward with an election which would be held on March 11th, 2014. The actual holding of the election is contingent on the receipt of a positive review and comment from the commissioner. It would require a voter-approved request not to exceed 89 million. And then I feel like I would like to read the ballot question for record. Ballot question states, shall the School Board of Independent School District Number 720 Shakopee be authorized to issue its general obligation school building bonds in an amount not to exceed 89 million to provide funds for the acquisition and betterment of school sites and facilities, including the construction and equipping of a new high school facility, the acquisition and installation and construction of safety and security improvements, the upgrading of district shared outdoor facilities, and the repair, remodeling, upgrading, and completion of deferred maintenance and facility improvements to existing district sites and facilities.
Sum that up.
So that's what our citizens would see on the ballot. Questions on that?
If not, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Mary, I'm sorry to bother you, interrupt you, I need a roll call on this, please.
Okay.
Bowerman,
Yes.
McKeon,
Yes.
Schneider,
Yes.
Shutrop,
Yes.
Swanson,
Yes.
Tucker,
Yes.
and Romansky.
Yes.
Thank you for catching that, Sarah.
Very welcome.
I'd like to then go into the third resolution. That name of the resolution or document is a resolution establishing new special election polling place. And the motion I'm looking for in a second would be a resolution establishing a polling place and a combined polling place for certain multiple precincts and designating hours during which the polling places will remain open for voting for school district elections not held on the day of a statewide election. And again, I'll give you the details of that as highlights on this resolution.
I'll make that motion.
Second.
Okay, and this, I think these are very important highlights. The first one is that we would establish the combined polling place at our high school auxiliary gym at at the current high school. We would use the west entrance, and we'd probably be able to, for parking accommodations, be able to kind of block off that area from staff and students and then use it for better access, more accessible access for all of our citizens and our voters. And then we also would establish a polling place at Jackson Township Hall for the folks who live in Jackson Township. So this would allow, I think, as you all know, we've had right here at CFC, we've had parking issues, we've had, quite frankly, in March or in the winter months, the accessibility issues of folks trying to walk through the slush and snow. I think just the concept of having it at a place where it's more accessible and open will be a good opportunity for our people to actually have their voices heard at the ballot box. So with that, Sarah, is that also a
Yes,
roll
it is.
call?
Bowerman,
Yes.
McKeon,
Yes.
Schneider,
Yes.
Shutrop,
Yes.
Swanson,
Yes.
Tucker,
Yes.
and Romansky.
Yes.
Thank you.
Very efficient. We don't have to come up with any donut system.
Came in a half hour into the budget.
Then we go all the way down to the assistant superintendent update.
Sounds good. I'd like to share, I went to the Minnetonka Institute last Friday, which Minnetonka has taken the lead on professional development in the state. They put on these series of events throughout the year, and they bring in some of the top speakers in the area, technology, curriculum, evaluation, you name it. They've had them there, and this last week they had Heidi Jacob Hayes there, who wrote a book called Curriculum 21 a couple years ago, and she's got a pretty interactive site on, she's one of the leading researchers on curriculum design out there right now, and it was just interesting to hear as I sat there throughout the day. What she was talking about really echoed what Nancy and JP have been presenting and are continuing to present to us on the interplay between the curriculum and the instructional technology piece that we're moving towards. Right off the bat, she says we need to get off that standard cycle and work with that continuous improvement model. You know, as soon as textbooks are printed, they're almost out of date immediately, and with the way things are going, being able to update things in an instant, it's just the way things are changing. And she talked about, you know, she'd be real hesitant to even put money into textbooks right now at this time and place. And she was talking about how learners are, you know, creating and sharing info differently than in previous generations. It's kind of changed the locus of control of learning, and it's not the teacher in control of everything. It's more the students in charge of their learning, and the teachers being more of a guide. And you know, kind of that. You even talked about that fallacy of how, you know, we think we're in control of everything, trying to engage learners and get them excited about what's going on. And she really talked about 3 new literacies that are out there that we need to get our kids ready for. One of the biggest ones was the digital literacy, which was the use and access of this technology. And if we're not getting our kids ready for this, we're almost providing a disservice. I kind of chuckle a little bit. Under digital, she had 3 different skills, and the first one was keyboarding. And I'm thinking, she goes, I know you're all thinking, you know, ZAQ/semicolon P, you know, the old keyboarding piece, but she says, you know, that's still a key skill, because these kids that are coming out and wanting to be programs and things of this nature, they need to be able to, they still need to have that skill. We probably say they need to have it earlier than, it probably shouldn't be a high school course, but it should be something that they're learning earlier on. And then there was a couple of new ones. One was touch and effect they were talking about in there. And it was kind of with the iPads that, you know, kids are, you know, you've all seen the little videos where kids are looking at books and kind of, you know, trying to get them to move, and almost saying that it's people are starting to move these devices into pre-K and kindergarten programming to you know, to excite kids, get them used to this new way of accessing curriculum. And the other one was voice activated with Siri and things of that nature. We're all starting to use that, and how that can help kids that are, especially kids that are special needs and things of that nature, you know, being able to access, and just the digital curriculum being able to accommodate different needs and things of that nature. You know, if you got instead of having a book, if you've got a tool, you can, did I say it, things of that nature? Thank you, keeping me honest. Being able to grow the font size and having things read to you and all of that, just the accommodations that you could have for students are just, there's no reason we shouldn't be doing this. And then the second literacy was media literacy, being good consumers and creators of media. And then the third piece was that global literacy piece that we need to be focusing on, not just Europe and the standard places that we have been in the past, but we need to be looking at and getting kids to they talk about the BRIC countries, the ones that are up and coming that we don't always spend a lot of time on, Brazil, Russia, India, and China, that are becoming the big world players and all of that. And again, it was reaffirming to hear some of the conversations that she was, you know, echoing are things that we're talking about, and I think we're on the right path. So I just wanted to share that, because I was sitting there and I felt pretty good about it when I left. So that's what I wanted to share.
Anything else?
Nope.
Superintendent update?
Thanks, Mary. I'm going to talk about just one topic, and that's the November 25th school board learning session. We have about 5 topics that we'd like to include. Hopefully it won't take us till after 10 o'clock, but you've heard the meat of some of these things, but
The contract is up for renegotiation.
I know. We'll make sure of it, that we won't go as long. The first topic is that I'm looking at posting for the board learning session is what I'm looking for is a discussion and then a governance direction, not a decision, a direction for teaching and learning, a 5-year plan. You've already heard that the last go around, but we're looking for you to reflect, think about, and make sure we're heading in the right direction, and then with your governance direction, we'll keep working and bringing it forward. My hope is, because we're so late in the school year, or in the calendar year, I should say, that I thought it'd be appropriate that with the new board coming on in January, that we would actually make the formal approval of the 5-year plan in January, but pay honor to the current working board members to give the direction and check in to make sure we're going in the right direction. The second item is we want to give you, we talked about last time, the all-day, everyday update. We've got some technology, some curriculum, Wold has done some designing. We think you should check in and make sure that this tracks with you. So that would be the second item. The third item would be discussion and governance direction on instructional technology, again with the goal of to put it into play in January, but to get the direction now from the sitting board. The fourth item is a discussion on, and now I'm going to jump to Sarah, where are we at with a new board retreat date?
I believe we're about 95% at Monday, January 20th,
Okay.
but there's still a couple more details.
Okay, and so we'll have further discussion, and I really appreciate the flexibility, and of course, that's for the oncoming board, and I really appreciate people's flexibility, because I know people are changing family vacations, they're making adjustments to their work environment, which you guys already give so much of, and really appreciate that. The 10th and 11th, I guess we can't control when people get married, right? So there was a wedding that got in our plans, in the way of our plans, but we'd like to get that set, and then at this meeting, we'll talk through what Dennis can offer, and then what we'd like to do is, in our previous calendar, we had some dates built in, both, and now it would be both for Chuck and for Sean as new board members, and even though Chuck served before, I think our governance model needs to have some conversation, and so he would do a couple of hours, probably with whoever our board chair and chair would be. He would do some exec committee type work with those two and myself before the retreat. And then lastly, Mike talked about the need to do some levy updates and get set for the adoption of our levy on December 9th. So those would be the topics for our learning session.
Anything else you want to add?
Oh, that's it.
No information items. Let's see, committee updates? Any committees been meeting?
I went to the scale meeting on Friday. It was a presentation by the Department of Corrections in Minnesota, understanding the predatory sex offender process. It was actually really informational and interesting. I can forward you guys the notes if you want to, but they gave some statistics in regards to, how many people, but they also defined, where different people are in the levels, and it was interesting.
Another committee, Curriculum Advisory met last week for the first time this year. I don't know, Dr. Bezick, if you want to take us through just a quick update.
We talked about the various plans, looking at the 5-year plan with the secondary, and touch on the technology plan a little bit as well, and just lay those out for people, and that was probably the meat of it right there, and yeah.
It was a good meeting, good to have parent feedback, and good to see a truncated version of Dave's deep dive into the data. 30-minute version was also very thrilling. But no, it was a very, very good meeting. I thought it was very positive.
Any other committee reports? If not, other, if anything?
I got nothing.
Yeah? Steve?
No.
Not?
I'll just compliment the administration at TLC for the graduation last Thursday. Mary and I and Dr. Bezick were able to be there. It was fantastic. It was a really, really neat experience. I think we got a class act over there, and I'm really, really glad that I got to be there, and I'm going to make it a point to make every one of them, because it was really cool. Really proud of everybody over there.
And 2 of the 5 parents came to both of us and said, thank you for funding this. My child would have made it without it.
That's great. Nice.
Carl?
Nothing.
Reggie? No. I can't top Scott saying that it is well worth the price of admission to go to the Takana graduation, because these kids have overcome a lot to be there, and it's amazing to see the relationship the students have with all the staff members. There's something, you have to have special staff people working, because these students know when they're not being listened to or not being heard, and it's just amazing to see how much these teachers and other staff members, including Brandy, who works the reception desk, and some of the kids had her speak for them. It's amazing. So anyway, it's well worth the price of admission. With that, we'll go to item 14, upcoming meetings and important dates. We have a learning session on the 25th and our board business meeting on the 9th, along with our truth and taxation hearing. And then we start our organizational meeting on January 6th, and our board retreat is to be determined. And with that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn, and remember what we discussed before, how we're going to adjourn. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Those opposed? Now adjourned.
You know how tempted I was?
I was waiting for, if you're happy and you know it.
Freaking made me happy and I know it.
57 minutes.
You did.
That's great.
Yes,
Have we had them?
0 reses. Fantastic.
Who did my townhouse?
That's who did ours too.
ZERO.
It's
REZ.
same forward as
Same
backwards.
forward as backwards.
They did mine and they were horrible.
Really?
Really?
A month
Did you hear
later,
that?
it was like it was
I've had
never
Hennons
done.
do it.
Wow.
I've had Hennons do it, but he just kind of goes around things.
Yeah.
No, I need
I
like,
thought they were very
like
good.
there's, like, it's like stained carpet, like I need,
Oh, then I had coffee stained on mine. It came from them.
I have no idea what's on it. I mean, it's.
Well, I know on mine
You'll
was
get it.
coffee.